Hey there, friends, especially those of you out in FFL land with federal firearms licenses. It's no secret that the Biden administration has really leaned on the ATF to overly scrutinize FFL dealers. It's like they have a quota to dismiss as many FFL dealers and put them out of business as they possibly can over really small infractions. Nothing serious, none of their straw purchases that they always like to say, none of their rogue FFL dealers. We're talking about someone who didn't cross a T or dot an I, or who left out a digit in somebody's driver's license or whichever. It's clerical errors, non-intentional clerical errors that they're revoking federal firearms license for at record rates right now. It's a purposeful event because the numbers are astronomical. No one is suddenly screwing up more. No one is suddenly trafficking guns more than they might have been before. There's not suddenly an abundance of straw purchases. It's because the tactics to scrutinize and lean on and put weight on these FFL dealers has been pushed much, much harder from the top, more notably from the Biden administration down to the DOJ. Well, as luck would have it, a recent report came out. And again, thanks to Bearing Arms for putting this story out. I'll put more on this story as far as the details of this report later, but let me go at a real high level what's happening. Between the years 2016 and 2019, it was discovered that thousands of firearm parts, and ammunition had been stolen from the NFAD. Now, the NFAD is simply a renamed version of what they call the NDB now. The NDB is the National Disposal Branch. This is essentially a branch, a location where they will bring guns, store guns, supposedly securely, and at some point they dispose of them. These may be ATF confiscated firearms. They may be firearms of the actual ATF themselves. Either way, it's a place where firearms are destroyed. So they are categorized, inventoried, and at some point they are determined that we are going to destroy these, so they're gotten rid of. Well, come to find out, they don't do a very good job of storing their own firearms. In the back of my mind, I'm over here thinking, what an FFL dealer were responsible for thousands of guns suddenly being stolen? They would be considered a rogue gun dealer, right? Well, it looks like the rogue gun dealers are the actual ATF. Now, they're trying to pin this on a subcontractor by making it look like, oh, we found the problem, we notified it, we've identified it, and now we know where our problem exists, so all things are corrected now. We're good to go. They tried to hang this on a subcontractor, thinking that that relieves any responsibility or any blame from them. We all know that's a lie, because the organization, the Department of Justice rather, who investigated all of this, found that there were a number of things that were being done incorrectly that led to insecure issues at the facility itself. You'll notice in bullet 3 right here that it says the NDB staff, this is the ATF now. I want to point this out, that when I say NDB or you see this in here, don't think that that's a completely different organization. That's the ATF. This is a branch of the ATF. So please don't think that, oh, that's not the ATF. They're doing their job right. This is the NDB. The NDB is the ATF. It's just a small portion of them. It's like the accounting department or something like that. It's just a different department name. But it says the NDB staff does not consistently adhere to established operating procedures in place to mitigate the risk of firearms being lost or stolen. If that were, just that one sentence alone, were applied to an FFL dealer, do you think they would still have their license? Do you think that anyone would still be in business at that location? Sorry, just a little side note that I wanted to make. They go on to state that specifically we observe NDB staff, 1, propping open doors into secure areas of the facility solely for the sake of convenience. Yeah, didn't want to have to key in my code to go back in. Didn't want to have to go around to the front entrance. Wanted to go out back, burn a few, smoke a little bit, and didn't want to be inconvenienced of having to either card my way back in, walk to the front door, whichever. So I propped the door open. You know that's what happened. 2, allowing visitors to enter the facility through doorways other than the main entrance and drive their cars into the facility to unload firearms. Yeah, what can be easily unloaded in a facility can also be easily loaded from that very same facility in those same vehicles. And 3, permitting unauthorized individuals to access NDB vault storage spaces. So we've got people who aren't even part of the organization who have access to secure areas where firearms are located. They go on to state that the ATF should improve its controls over firearms stored in temporary vaults and over keys used to unlock shipping cases containing firearms slated for disposal. So we essentially have an organization in charge of monitoring you and I to make sure we do the right thing storing firearms and managing firearms, and they can't do it on their own. That's like their job. You know the meme that says, you had one job? These people had one job, and they failed at it. This is what was caught. You know they don't want to tell on themselves. You know they don't want to. In fact, if you'll notice the years here, this is during the Trump administration. So they're even trying to limit their report just to the time frame where Trump was in there. Trump and no president has anything to do with this. Granted, Joe Biden definitely has more responsibility as far as saying be stricter. But as far as this organization operates on its own outside of any authority elsewhere. They do whatever they want. That's why I've often called them a rogue organization. They do whatever they want despite of who's in power and who tells them what to do. So this entire organization has been screwing up for all this time. And notice suddenly they chopped this one little window out right in the middle of the Trump administration to say this is when it was happening. As if they're not shining a light on the rest of the time that they have been doing this exact same thing. If they found thousands of firearms within that 3-year period of time, there's no doubt in my mind that there's tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of firearms that they have mismanaged, that have managed to find their way out there into the public again. I would be willing to bet, this is just a hunch here, I would be willing to bet that some of those guns that Barack Obama and Eric Holder funneled down to the Mexican cartels to try to make it look like America had a gun problem by illegally running guns down to Mexico probably were acquired through this same stupid mismanaged process that they're finally uncovering here.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. It's over.